Dame Kiri Te Kanawa has performed in all the great opera houses of the world. In 1981, she performed for Charles and Diana at their wedding, and for a global audience of 700 million. Her extraordinary voice made Dame Kiri Covent Garden's prima donna for 3 decades.
I love to make music, but I think life is for other things as well. The simpler it is, and the less you want, the more you have, and that's where I am.
Now in her 60s, her voice and her maturity inspire old and young to achieve the highest quality in their art. Although Kiri Te Kanawa made her operatic name in the UK, she was born and brought up in rural New Zealand, a landscape which continues to inspire her.
Sometimes in my place in New Zealand, I'll sit and I've walked with somebody in there and I said, this place is very spiritual, and if you're here you'll feel it, and it's true. You don't have to do anything, you just walk in this place and it's eerie, there's so much there. I can feel it. And then I just walk out to the end and look out to the water, and I sit there and you can feel what's going on, because it's magic. It's totally and utterly spiritual, and I know it is. My heart is all still there, my spirit's still there. But the thing is, I've taken on everything that England's provided for me and given me this amazing career and life and everything, and I accept that, but I find it very hard because, I can't actually call the country my own. And I feel that sometimes a sadness because I've gained so much from it. I know where I belong. I love England really very, very much, but there's a lot of things I want to do in New Zealand. So, and I really want to enjoy my country a little bit more because it's something that I love, and it's lovely to say I go home. It is really wonderful, and I belong, and I really do belong.
Kiri Te Kanawa was born in Gisborne on New Zealand's Pacific coast in 1944 to a Maori father and a mother of Irish extraction. She was offered for adoption as a baby and taken on by a couple of exactly the same heritage, Tom and Nell Te Kanawa. Kiri never sought to meet her biological parents.
I suppose one's always curious. You always want to be on the other side of the street and just have a look across and say, I don't want to go there anymore. But I think when you're adopted, if your parents were wonderful and you feel there's no need to go anywhere else, then that's fine too. I felt that I had such an amazing life that I would not destroy them by going off and saying, I need to see who my real parents are. I just felt as though I was a very special child. I don't know, maybe because my father and my mother looked after me so well, and they were such beautiful parents, especially my father, that I really felt very privileged, still do. My father treated me like a princess. I could do no wrong. And it was, like I say, and every day goes past, I think of him every day, because he was a lovely, lovely man.
But it was Kiri's mother, Nell, who discovered her voice and pushed her to sing. She also converted the family to Catholicism, allowing Kiri the chance to attend the prestigious St Mary's College.
It was possible by being Catholic, they accepted me. It was still at that time where you went to Catholic schools if you were Catholic, you went to Anglican schools if you were Anglican. You had to choose a religion almost. You were either a Catholic or a Church of England, Presbyterian, Anglican, and there was, you had to have a religion.
Kiri could now study music at St Mary's under the tutelage of the nationally renowned teacher, Sister Mary Leo, an inspiration and something of a tyrant.
She was a bit of a demon, and there was a lot of church, a lot of prayers, and go and pray before you went to a concert, which was you were always in fear of, not getting through the concert or getting through the competition or anything. So we were always in fear. But they said, I've heard since growing up a little bit, and someone said, once a Catholic, always a Catholic, no matter what. You sort of made Cooper. You're always sort of slashing at your wrist and being a martyr.
But from an early age, Kiri rejected Catholicism's most basic of institutions.
To ask a young child at age 7 or whatever it is to go to talk to a priest through a frightening grill. They never really said to you, now this is what you will be experiencing. You are thrown to this black box, door shut, and then this sort of priest going, tell the young woman, what are your sins? And you think, oh my God, who is he? And I'm dying to see his face, because I thought, who are you, silly old fool? And I'd have to tell my sins, and the night before I'd be crying. I thought, oh my God, I've done this, and I've eaten that, and I shouldn't have taken that, and I was rude to my mother. And I thought, you're 7, you don't do things like that. And I thought, no, I'm not going in there anymore. They'd ask if I'd been to confession. I said, oh yeah. So it turned out to be a liar as well. I have my own God now. And that's my mother. I remember my mother, she said, I pray to my own God. And she says her these 3 prayers and those 3 prayers, and then prays for me and prays for this and prays for that. And so I just took that on. I thought, that sounds best to me, that at least I do it to my God.
The religious instruction may not have worked, but Sister Leo forced Kiri to sing and sing. By her mid-teens, she was funding her musical education through singing at events throughout the area.
I went and sang at weddings and funerals and anything that I could sing at, and I got £2 a time, and it sort of paid for some part of my week. My father struggled, and my mother struggled to give me the training. I suppose we all thought we were little angels for a while, and everyone loved you singing. I remember when you were young, because you looked beautiful, and you were like a little dove, a little white dove or something. So people thought it was wonderful.
Kiri had become famous across New Zealand, winning singing competitions, appearing on television and radio, and recording popular songs. She was a star, but at just 17 years old, she faced a decision: whether to stay a big fish in a small pond at home, or cross the world to London to further her musical studies.
Well, it was sort of a natural progression, really. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to be any good. I was the last person to know, and everyone else was sort of fear and trembling that would I be able to withstand the rigours of this sort of international career, if it ever would happen. I was offered a place at the London Opera Centre, and so I took it. I thought, well, that's fine, I'll do that. And then I went. I just left like that. It was like as fast as it was. One day I was in New Zealand, I'd won this competition, the next day I'd met James Robertson, and I was on the ship to come to England. It was just like that. There was no thought about it.
I think I'm gonna be sad. I think it's today.
It was all Carnaby Street, and everyone was sort of flower power and, tie-dye and masses of false eyelashes and masses of all that strange makeup and stuff. But I would just look at it and I thought, think I wasn't quite in that world, because little New Zealand, and me being a New Zealander, we were fairly conservative. And it took a few years for me to sort of branch out a little bit. But I wasn't really a wild child.
Within a year of arriving in London, Kiri had fallen in love and married a young Australian, Desmond Park. Her social life was working out, but the London Opera Centre was rigorous and competitive, and Kiri soon learnt that to get on she would have to match the ambition and dedication of her peers.
It was all fine to be a big name in New Zealand, but that didn't mean to say you were going to be a big name over here. I never knew the word ambitious until I got in there amongst the students, and they were all very pleased with themselves and doing extremely well and singing for all the right people. And I'm thinking, oh, am I supposed to do this? Because I had no idea. Am I supposed to be singing for that person, or auditioning here, or what is the... I just sort of went along, and somehow along the line I was just so lucky. Other people would just sort of quickly sort of stamp over you as you were going for the door, and they'd, whoa, they got through there first. So I just sort of learnt very quickly how, if I wanted to sing, if I wanted to have a career, I had to do it a certain way.
In 1969, Kiri got the break she'd been working for and her parents had dreamed of. She was invited to join the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, and she was immediately offered the demanding part of the Countess in Mozart's Marriage of Figaro.
I just joined Covent Garden by chance. I mean, I did nine auditions, and they didn't know if they wanted me, and no one could decide on it. Then they said, oh, well, she'll sing the Countess. And I said, no, I can do Barbarina, that'll be fine. No, you'll be doing the Countess. I said, oh, no, Barbarina's fine. The chorus, what about the chorus? No. And I just went on. I said, well, I can't do the Countess. Anyway, they said, you will, and so I learnt it in Italian, and it took me about a year. It's just sitting in a room doing it all day, every day.
The Countess is a nerve-wracking role. You wait in the wings throughout Act 1 and then launch into one of the most demanding arias ever written, Porgi Amor.
I mean, I was really young. And no young person as young as that, I don't think, should be doing a role like that in an opera as important as Covent Garden, with an amazing cast, an amazing conductor, orchestra. I mean, only the real people do that, the big singers do that.
The 1970s saw an emergence of young talent into the Royal Opera House. It was a period of change for the Garden, and Dame Kiri Te Kanawa played a crucial part in the decade of revival.
Because I remember when I started going to Covent Garden, and my first few years, I was actually invited to the Royal Box. I thought I was just in heaven. It was just so perfect. And I went there many, many times, and I thought that was what really got me into that sort of intimate part. Sometimes going backstage to see the singers, or going on the stage, and that was terribly exciting. And there was a real family there. There was a stable of us. That's since disappeared, I think. But we were several young, up-and-coming young principals, we were called, or junior principals or something. And some would make it and some wouldn't. And it was lovely. And we were able to sit in there and watch the opera and watch the rehearsals and talk to any conductor we liked. It was wonderful. It was a little family.
Kiri's reputation as a singer of Mozart grew. She took Figaro first to Mexico and then worldwide.
I think the reason why I loved it so much was because it was such a discipline. I mean, Mozart was really difficult, and people used to shy off it and just not do it. It was difficult. But I've always found the more I did it, the more I loved it. But also the more I heard people who I thought, well, why can't they sing Mozart? And I'd hear them sing it. And it wasn't as I thought it should be. Not that that I could say that they couldn't sing it. But I just felt that I was given such good training with my singing teacher and a lot with Colin Davis. I listened to Colin for a long time in Mozart, and all the other people at Covent Garden who were teaching me how to do it. And I think I took a lot of it in because I found it was so rewarding. And then, of course, along came Strauss straight after it. And then it was even more rewarding because you had these lovely long lines. This very beautiful music. And it was just it was like you were sort of lifted, somehow you just elevated off the ground for a while.
Strauss's work fitted perfectly with Kiri's voice. It was a love affair with the music and the style which matched her precise but fluid delivery.
It sat comfortably for me. He wrote it in the same places where I could use my voice. See, some voices, they don't sit up there where he put it. They might sit a note higher or half a note lower. But in my case, it was sitting right in the comfortable shoes position. It was just nice. In some songs I do, in the beginning I would say, oh God, it feels a bit low, but with Strauss it never felt like that. You can't push your voice in an area that it's not comfortable. It just doesn't work. If your voice just doesn't sit on that bit of air, it just doesn't work. You know, it's like a size 12 to a size 14. What do you come in? You're basically size 14. It's like pushing yourself into size 12 and thinking, of course it fits. Yes, of course it fits. You know you're uncomfortable for the whole night. No matter how many times you did it through, you never knew it well enough because you felt that you just didn't quite get the measure of it each time. The aria, you'd sing it through thousands of times. You'd work it with your singing teacher. You'd work it with everybody. If you have to stand on your head, sing it. You'd try doing that. I mean, all that sort of thing. You just try and try and try. I never, ever got sick of any opera. I couldn't. It was never good enough. I never really thought that was good enough.
Kiri's dedication to the task was legendary. She'd grown from small-town singer to international diva. It was a combination of talent and sheer hard work.
It's laborious. It's just hours and hours and hours of repetition. Learning the language, going to language coaching, going to singing teachers to make sure you can sing the right notes in the right place. Singing, once you've learnt it, and then you've got to memorise it, and then you've got to get the language coach back in again, and just goes on and on. It can take a year. We were trained. We were given a lot of training of what to do and how to do it. And I hope I was okay, but I loved it. I loved the swish of the skirt and how you exited. It's far more important the exit rather than the entrance, because all they're going to see is your back, and you've got to make absolutely sure that they're going to only look at that as you go out. And that was important to make sure that the back of you was important.
However flamboyant the opera, Kiri had always had the common touch, the ability to bring her voice and her art to a mass audience, whether singing at the opening of the Commonwealth Games or at the 4,000-seater Met in New York. In an art form often thought of as inaccessible and highbrow, Kiri is bent on increasing accessibility without compromising on quality.
People have got to connect with it. They need to feel they must go. Whereas a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to the opera night tonight and I really don't want to go because the boss's wife's invited us all and things like that. And you don't want them to feel like that. You actually want to think, gosh, this is wonderful. Because it's like when I would do Capriccio, I said I really want subtitles or surtitles. But they see the audience feel as though they know what you're talking about because they're just reading it and they can refer to it or not. And I thought that opened up a huge amount of people who would not normally come to the opera. They felt they were involved, and I've always felt that anything that brought the audience in was good, as far as I was concerned.
Kiri rapidly became a legend, applying her voice to an increasing range of music: religious works, love songs, popular ballads and classical opera, including a combination of arias by
Puccini was my sort of, I suppose, indulgence luxury, that I could indulge in a lovely, beautiful tunes and do a little bit of, sliding around on it. There is a lot of give and take in Puccini that is not really allowed in Mozart or Strauss. You can't duck and dive in it. It's clean singing, and sometimes Puccini doesn't need clean singing. It has to have a little bit of the in-between of just sliding between the notes sometimes, which is the style.
But it was an invitation to sing at a wedding which brought Kiri's name before a truly mass audience. Some 700 million people tuned in to watch her sing for a prince and princess. The prince had personally requested Kiri to sing. It was an honour which he'd had to keep secret for many months.
I think I was in Paris, and it was just a phone call. And my agent manager said, "Oh, Charlie wants you to sing at his wedding." I said, "Oh yeah, who, Charlie, who?" Charles Windsor. I said, "What do you mean?" And it was just like that. And they said, "But you cannot say a single thing." I thought, "Oh my, how do you swallow that?" And you know, once you've got information like that, what do you do with it? You do write it down on a piece of paper and swallow it and say, "Right, and I'll never tell this secret until I'm allowed to." So it took quite a few months before they allowed me to tell anyone. I think he wanted a really celebratory type of song, which was wonderful. And it was a song I was always singing, so it wasn't difficult. I didn't have to learn it. But I did have the music there for fear that I'd have a blank. I thought I must look at the music, because I was just too terrified to think that I could actually keep my cool enough to remember it all. Great dress. I wasn't going to be dressed in black, thank you. I was going to be seen and heard. The dress is now in the museum in New Zealand, the hat and the dress, so that it's in permanent storage there now. So a lot of the things that I've used through the years have gone into the Museum of Te Papa, and so they will be exhibited mostly when I die. Then everyone will have a look at all my bits and pieces. It was frightening. It was really frightening, but it was lovely. It was. I mean, I've since seen it on tape several times, and I think, oh, that was the most amazing day of my life, really.
An arduous timetable of work followed the wedding. Offers poured in from across the world. The rigours of opera had to be fitted in with guest appearances, gala nights, and special performances. It all took a toll on her voice.
I think it's just so difficult to constantly be in that form all the time, to be, before you've even opened your eyes in the morning, you've gone to see if there's anything there, and sometimes there wasn't, and you'd think, I just better go back to sleep for the rest of the day, because it's the only thing that's going to make it better. And that used to happen regularly, because we'd exhaust ourselves.
And the demands continued. When Sir Paul McCartney ventured into classical music, he turned to Kiri to sing in his Liverpool oratorio, conducted by the legendary Carl Davis.
Most composers want to write some sort of a religious mass, and so he did. And it was lovely. It was a very sort of simple story, and put into that sort of classical mode. It was very nice. You just always heard about the Beatles, and before I even came to England, the Beatles were it. But it was lovely to be able to work with someone like Paul McCartney. on a very original piece.
In part 3, Kiri returns to her Maori roots and finds she just can't stop working. Dame Kiri Te Kanawa has always applied her voice to ballads and popular songs. Although they don't make the demands of opera, she's determined to bring her unique talents to such material.
And none of them are frivolous, but they're not as difficult to sing as Mozart or Strauss. But there again, I'm singing the classical manner and not the sort of Broadway singer manner. So then if I would have to sing like they do, then it's a different thing. But I sing it in my style, and I choose the songs that I could sing in the best possible way. But I wouldn't sing them in the Broadway sense.
Sometimes the lyrics of the song become more important than the quality of the music.
Words are important. It's difficult to know because sometimes, you know, what comes first, music or words. I don't know which it is. But having good words is wonderful.
And sometimes the lyrics have a resonance beyond the song. In 1997, Kiri's 30-year relationship fell apart. Her once loyal husband, Desmond, informed her he was seeing another woman. Separation and divorce quickly followed. Kiri has always declined to talk publicly about the details of the divorce, but she recognises that her involvement with music and her international career left little time for her relationship.
I've had such a life that it's so in the operatic world and the classical world that everything else took second place, I suppose. Because everything I did was all in the glory of music and all those sort of things, and it was wonderful, but it doesn't leave time for personal. There's not much there. I'm happy to be alone now. I'm very happy to I don't need to see anybody. I can sit up at the Bay of Islands and just watch the tide come in and go out. But I'm very happy. I'm very content. And I think I'm feeling to myself, maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I need a bit of sort of, you know, a few fireworks in my life to sort of get me sparked up to do something. But I think at this part of my life, and I want the peace and quiet that I think I've worked for and earned.
In the last decade, Kiri has become increasingly involved in her Maori roots. Throughout her career, she's been torn between her UK base and her homeland, and she's now able to make contact with a background that was denied to her as a child.
You have to remember, you know, many years ago, 50, 60 years ago, Maori was not allowed to be spoken, was not allowed to be whispered. People of my father's age they were not allowed to speak Maori at all. It's hard to know where to start now because having lived out of New Zealand now for over close to 40 years, that when I left there was just nothing happening in Maoridom. And now it's over the last, I suppose, 20 years, it's really taken off and it's absolutely fabulous. It's exciting.
And part of Kiri's commitments to Maori Dom was to record an album of Maori songs.
I was very pleased to be able to do something like this, and it was an amazing recording, and I felt that it was something that was very, very necessary, and I wanted to show that if we were going to let sounds of music out from our country, then I wanted to make sure that it was very, very special. My achievement was to produce something that was almost untouchable. And I think in lots of ways people are matching up with that, not in the classical sense, but in other these new compositions and things like that. And there's some very, very nice Maori music coming out. So it sort of achieved what I thought was necessary in my field.
But there's been one significant drawback to Kiri's involvement in Maori culture. People claiming to be half-brothers began to come out of the woodwork, apparently attracted as much by her wealth as her interest in Maori Dom.
Over the last 10 years, the amount of people have come up to me and said, I'm your cousin, I'm your niece, I know your father, I know your sister, I know your brother. I said, yeah. I'll tell you what, there are 11 of you in some variation with the same father or the same mother, but not the two same. I do not have anybody who is on my side of the family that's got the same mix as I've got. My father had children somewhere else with another woman. My mother had children somewhere else with another man, and not my father. So it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I've gone into it on these little microchips. I've had someone do it, and he said, basically, Kiri, maybe still counting, there are 11. So. And in lots of ways, I suppose I have to say I'm not interested. It's because it's far too complicated. And I have my life and I have my family. And we have no history now. There would be no need to get together because there's no history. We have nothing to say to each other.
Kiri continues to split her time between the UK and New Zealand, where she set up a foundation to encourage and actively support emerging talent, resources which she lacked at the beginning of her own career.
I'm looking for students of outstanding quality, outstanding talent. And so what I wanted to try and do was that when they got to England and they'd paid their airfare and they'd got some sort of money, I wanted to try and assist them after that, because it's no use paying for a young student saying, here's all the money you need, go study. That doesn't do it. They have got to struggle, and then when they need a real leg up and they're really doing very well, that's when you help them. They've got to feel the struggle. Because if you don't feel the struggle, it's not a success.
And for Kiri, music has an importance beyond a career in performance.
I think for people who have a deep need of peace in their lives, music can bring that peace. Music does do that. It seems to make the calmness work, the calmness and the peace that you want.
Kiri's own singing career is far from over. Her latest venture is a collaboration with composer Carl Jenkins, who describes her as an icon of her art.
I went into EMI and they said, Carl Jenkins. Of course, with Carl, he has amazing rhythms. It's hard work, but I think unusual for a recording to have so many tracks that I personally think are extremely good. It just went from there into the recording we've got. I can't say that there's any song there that I don't like, if you know what I mean, because you can always think, well, that's a filler. None of them are fillers. I said to Carl, this has got an amazing amount of integrity in it because of what he's composed and what he's done with some of the arranging of the South American songs. And he was so sweet. He said, well, I don't do taki. And I thought that was just gorgeous. This lovely, lovely man. It was such a pleasure. And when I finished my last note of the song that we were finally just putting pieces together on, I was sort of sad. I wanted to try and do something else because I didn't want to really just go away from this recording because we'd finished. Oh no, I can't stop working. I've always got to have a project. There's always something on the landscape.
Kiri has reached an age where maintaining her voice is increasingly hard work. Yet her first and most demanding aria remains the benchmark of her ability to sing.
I like all the others, I like them all, but I quickly go back to Mozart or Strauss to make sure that I've still got it. And I think I'd like to say that to end my career, that I hope I will still have and be able to sing Paul Giamore for my very last song, with my very last performance. I'd like to be able to sing that aria because I think it's important. It's important to me for my own, I think, self, my pride.